Welcome to tFLOW 5. Let's take a quick look at what's new. This will be about 20 minutes to go through the new features here. And so here's a quick list. So first of all, we have new user management, an automation script manager, a product manager, user profile and email alert settings. Of course, an API update, which will reflect all the changes from the items I just listed above, and some new integrations with TBot, which is our newest tool in the tFLOW automation line. So let's go ahead and take a look, starting with new user management, on what those changes look like. So let's go ahead and log into tFLOW here. So the biggest change for current users of tFLOW, you'll notice that they're no longer our work groups. Work groups are gone now. So as you can see here, they've been replaced. So companies did exist before, but work groups have been replaced now by roles. And so essentially you can manage all of the companies and users through these three settings here. So companies, roles, and users. So taking a quick look at companies, there's not a big change from before. So we have here, if you click on any company, you'll see here that it has company name, the default views, logos, just like it did before. The main change here is that you can now assign users to companies. So it used to be work groups. Now you can assign users to companies. So you have the site owner that you defining who in this that belongs to the site can work with this company, but also any other customers in the system that you want to be able to work with this company as well. So it's a rare case, but sometimes you do have situations where you want to have multiple companies collaborating. You can do that by adding them here. So again, previously in version 3, you'd need to do that through the work group. Now you can, here in the company setting, define users directly. So the largest change is here with roles. So role is actually what will define the permissions for all of your users. So if we look at a new role, this is how you would create a new role. You'd select for which company, and at that point define the users and the permissions. But normally you don't need to create new roles because they are created automatically every time you create a new company. So let's go ahead and take a quick look at what that looks like. So if I decide here new company, and let's call this sample info, for example. As soon as we create sample info company, if we go now down to roles, we'll see here that I go ahead and type in here sample. It already created here a role called sample info, main role. And as we see here, there are no users yet for this new company that we just created, but it already is prepared for any new user coming in because it's created a role for them, and it's already pre-assigned permissions as we see down here. So it pre-assigns your general permissions here as for a typical customer. So you can go in and change. That's another change here in the settings, as you can define here based on the user type which settings might make the most sense for your starting point. So of course you could choose any of these and go back and turn any on or off manually, but by default when you create a new customer, that it already decides here for you what those settings are going to be. So again, it's very quick to create companies and users because the roles are already created for you. And again, the roles now take over what you used to do in the work group. So the last point here, all you need to do then is in the user, go ahead and create a new user. So if we do that here, I'll just again define for which company that's going to be for. So it's going to be for sample info, and I'll call this sample user. And go ahead and give them a quick here. So sample user at gmail.com. Okay, so that's all I need to do here. As you can see that in assigned companies, they're already pre-assigned to work with themselves, of course. But at this point, too, you could allow this user, if you want them to work with any other company. At this point, once again, you don't need to do that through work groups anymore. And then you'd also be able to find their email there. So you see this window has also changed, but I'll be going into a little more detail in this area in just a minute. So we can go ahead and save this user. And that's it. So user management now is much easier to set up. And again, because users are not tied together anymore based on the companies they work with in work groups, actually each user now can be assigned to work with whichever companies you'd like them to be assigned to. So what that means is one other thing I wanted to mention also for any user is that there's a couple new options down here at the bottom for instance users to keep your eye on these. These are pretty important. So this first option here is whether or not you want this user to be assigned to any new orders automatically. So you can always assign people afterwards, but by checking or unchecking this box, this user will be assigned or not assigned to any new order automatically when it's created. So this gives you a lot more flexibility, again, because it's per user. So if there's some users that you always want to be assigned automatically orders, you'd have this turned on. If there's other users that are only sporadically assigned to orders, you'd be able to turn this off and then click them onto any order that you need them to be assigned to later. The other option down here is whether or not you want this user to be assigned to new companies. So again, this is relative to the site owner. So anytime a new customer comes on board, if this is checked, they'll be assigned to work with that company. If not, then they won't. You can always assign them to do that later. So one other thing just to mention here, in case some of you weren't aware, you can also bring in users automatically via the import CSV. So you can just pick up a CSV file here. If you have any questions on what the requirements are for that CSV, you see here, so you have all the instructions, and you also can download a sample. So it's a very simple CSV file that you need. Essentially, it needs the customer first and last name, their email, and their company. And with that, when you import it in, it'll create all the users automatically. For those of you working with web to print or MIS systems, as you probably know, you don't need to do that. The users are created automatically as soon as the order comes in for that user or that company. So let's go ahead and take a quick look at what this means when you're setting up an order. So if we go here to set up an order and go here to create an order, you'll see here it greatly simplifies as well. There's only one drop down now. So there used to be 4 drop downs. We'd have to assign all these different users. As you can see now, there's just one. So that's because the company we have here is the site owner, which is Tucanna. So as you see, some of the users are checked and other ones are unchecked. So any user that is checked had that option in their profile to assign to any new order. That's why it's checked. And then those that are unchecked are the users that were not assigned to or didn't have the option checked to assign to new order. So again, you could click on or off anybody you'd like to here. But it just pre-assigns. It's much quicker to set things up when you have people pre-assigned that value. The second thing here is if I go ahead and choose any customer company, so if I choose, let's say this one here, if they have, actually let's go to one that we know has a user in it. So if we choose a company that actually has a user in it, you'll see it adds a second drop down. So this is just showing you which users are in that company that you want to be able to assign as well. So very quick now to set things up, you have your site owner users that are working with that company, and you have that company's users both listed here in each drop down, and that's all you need to do now to set up an order with your users. So much easier, first of all, managing your users, but secondly, to set up your orders and jobs with that new user management. So let's go ahead and take a look at the second new thing here, which is the automation script manager. So what this allows you to do here is if you look in settings, as those of you know, previous versions of tFLOW, you would upload your automation scripts from the Callus toolbox by FTP. That's no longer necessary. Now you can do it with the script editor. And so this is down here, script automation scripts. So there's a you can see here there's a whole listing of scripts that I've already in here. So all you need to do if you want to add a new one is click Add New, and go ahead and just drag your KFPX file, drop it here into the window, and then you define here what kind of use you want to give it. So in this case, you could use it for any of these 3. So we have here, this would be a production. That essentially means what you're using to pre-flat your file and get it to be print ready. The proof will be what you want to, how you want to create your proof layout. You may want duplicate or an overlay, something like that on your proof. And the third one down here is your finishing. So this would be if you have, let's say, imposition or any addition things you want to do here for that. So in this case, since I'm doing an 8-up, actually that is the case. So this is a finishing profile, and it's not a production profile. So I can go ahead and upload that and hit save. So that brings now the profile in. Then we have the variables window, so we can manage variables in here. This profile was set up without any variables, so that's why nothing here appears in the window. But if it did have variables, we'd have a listing of all the variables, and we can define what we want those values to be. So much easier now to manage your profile. So again, you can go back in and edit any profile. You can upload new ones, download and delete all here from this window. So what's connected directly to that is the product manager. So that's the third item we have here on the list. So the product manager also saves a vast amount of time setting up your automation, and this ties into the automation script manager. So what we have over here is, so if we go up one, we have products. So essentially we can see now that we have a whole list of products already set up here in the system. So anything, hanging banners, blade flags, magazines, you see all these products that have already been set up. And it's very simple now to set up a product. So I can click on new product. And you see here now it's accessing all of those different automation scripts that I've uploaded. So if I want to call this, let's say a magazine, and let's call it magazine 2. I can define here what profile I want to use for building my proof. So maybe I want to do a side-by-side booklet type of preview. I could choose from my list of different proofs that I have here what kind of proof I want to be able to create. I can decide here what kind of pre-flight I want to go through. So I probably will choose my magazines, make sure that it's, let's say, PDF X3, or if I want to make sure that has a certain size or fonts are included, things like that. That's what's going to be defined in my production. And then down here is where I can assign my automation script. So if I want to impose it up, as I just mentioned before on that last when I upload the profile as a finishing script, you see here I've just now set up my workflow. So I've now created a product here called magazine and defined all the things that I want the system to do once a file comes up and uses the magazine product type. So by default, this will be used system-wide, but if I wanted to limit this to any number of companies, I could do that by just choosing from the list here. And this will then limit that profile just to a particular customer. So I'm going to go ahead and unselect that. And let's go ahead and create this product. So I'll go ahead and save. And now let's see how that gets used in tFLOW. So if I go back over here to orders and create a new order, as you can see here, we have products now listed. So now when I create a new order, I can come over here and say, oh yeah, I just want to choose from my magazine 2 product, and I'm done. I've just defined now how I want to create my proof, how I want to pre-flight, get the profile production ready, and then if I want to do any kind of finishing options like layout or things like that. So all that's been defined here just by one drop down now. So as you see here, it's very quick to set up orders. Both on the user side as well as on the product side, and especially if you're using an automated system, that means that when you're connecting to a web-to-print storefront or to an MIS system, you can just specify product type, and tFLOW will simply know what to do because it's already been set up as long as the product has the same name. Okay, so let's moving on here. We have also user profile and email alert settings. So let's go ahead and go over here. We'll see that we've moved the user profile. So in previous versions of tFLOW, it was up here in the upper left of the sidebar here. Now we've moved it over to the top right. So you'll see your avatar will appear up here in the top right. So to go to your settings, you can just click on your avatar and you'll see my profile. And this opens up your user profile. So if we go in here to email alerts, you'll see that now we've split out. On the left side, you have your order alerts, comment alerts, and rush status alerts. And over on the right side are all your job level alerts. So first big change, we have presets now. So you can choose based on a user type, what preset will probably match what your needs are. And again, you can choose from one of those types and also click on or off any notification as well. So over here on the right side, these are the job level alerts. And so we have, as in previous versions of tFLOW, you have real time, which means that for any of these types of status change that you have turned on, this will trigger an email alert to go out to you for anything you have turned on. We also have the digest view, which is also available in previous versions, where you could specify any number of hours and minutes that would give you an update, a status update on those particular jobs. But we've added in this version, and this will be especially useful for those of you that are dealing with orders with large numbers of jobs or line items in them, is we've added the order status report notification type, which here, again, you can specify the timeout that you want to use. And so what this does is this will send you one email about the order if a change has happened in that amount of time. So let's say if you set the time to 1 hour, if nothing happens to the order within an hour, you'll get no email. If there's been a change, and let's say you have 30 line items in that order or 30 jobs in the order, and 4, 5, 6, or 12 of them have some changes to them, you'll get one email because this is an order status report. So you get one email telling you of the changes in your order, regardless of the number of jobs that you have inside. So this will cut down dramatically on the number of notifications or email traffic that get generated. So that's in terms of the email alerts, but we also have some changes here in assigned companies. So just as when we were setting up companies, we were able to choose which users that we wanted to be able to view those companies. Also here, per user, you can turn on or off which companies you want this user to be able to view. So anything that's turned off here is going to be totally invisible for this user. And so as you can see here, again, independent of workflow, it's very easy and very flexible to decide which users are going to see which companies. So that's all managed here through the user profile. Okay, so going back over here to our list, you see we have API update. So of course, there's for those of you that didn't know, up in your URL, after that last slash, if you type in API doc, this brings up the API documentation for tFLOW. And so, of course, not going to go through all of the items here, but the main thing to keep in mind at this point is that all of those changes that have happened now in tFLOW are reflected or updated here in the API. So by not going through work groups, for example, you can now set company visibility if people are going to be assigned to new jobs and orders and so forth, now based on individual user permissions and settings and roles, and no longer needing to go through work groups. So again, quite a few changes here in the API reflecting the new flexibility and power, as well as, for example, being able to bring in products through the API. So if your web to print storefront can send over an attribute or a product type, we can now use that through the API, and then tFLOW, of course, will be fully automated, because when a product comes in that says banner, billboard, magazine as a product type from the front end, we know exactly, or tFLOW knows exactly what to do with that file. So that's for the changes on the API. And let's go back over to tFLOW here. One other thing to mention, and again, some of you may not be aware, there's also a anonymous upload form that tFLOW has available. So again, at the end of that slash, if you type in upload, this brings up the anonymous upload form. It's where customers can just drop files in with it never logging into tFLOW, and this brings the files in and creates the order automatically. But the main change here, as you see, is the product type. So again, all of those products that we created in the product manager are also visible now in your anonymous upload. So if a customer were to choose that magazine too and upload now a 16-page magazine, the system would already know which proof it needs to create, how it needs to pre-flight it, and what kind of imposition and layout you want to apply to it. So it's a very powerful addition, the product manager. Let's go ahead and go back into tFLOW here. And again, bring back over the list. So last thing we have on the item here is the TBot update. So the TBot will have its own video very soon, giving you a full overview of the functionality of TBot and how to set it up and how to use it. What I want to concentrate on here is just the new additions or the updates that have taken place in this particular release. So I'm going to go ahead and bring over TBot. And so TBot's job is to further automate what your file handling once the files are ready for production. So you see here we have a series of queues on the left side. Where these queues appear to tFLOW is actually when you're ready to send jobs to production. So if we look at a listing of jobs here, and so any job that's been approved or sent to production will have the option here to send to production. And so we'll see a list of queues that we can choose from to send files to. So those are being published here by TBot. So you can see this particular TBot, which is the one here in Carlsbad, is publishing a series of queues into tFLOW that allow the user to direct files into those different systems. So this one here is in another location. So that's TBot's job, and that's how it reflects in tFLOW. Let's go ahead and see what's going on in each of these queues. So you can create any number of queues you'd like. I'm just going to go ahead and go into queue here. And so you see here its job in this particular one, it's a very simple workflow, which is just download to print. Of course, you could add in additional parameters by clicking on anything else you want to add into your workflow. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of those for now and just focus on, again, just the new additions in this version. So as you can see here in this download to print queue, we have is, so this is connected to this tFLOW, and its job is to download the files. And so what's new is you see here that there's some export options. And so the export to InfoStrip, its job is to pull out the configuration file from InfoStrip if you have it on this computer and publish the information up into tFLOW so that you can decide upstream in the workflow what automation or what layout options you want to be able to use. And that's all done here by clicking on this button and selecting the ini file. So in the same way, TBot also here connects to Caldera. So if you don't have Nexio and you want to use it with Caldera or with any other RIP, you can of course do that. It will download the file and deposit it here in this directory. But with the Nexio integration, in this particular case, when you click on this option, is that it's able to access Nexio, and it pulls out the list of printers that are connected to that RIP and all of the quick sets that each of those printer uses. And then it publishes those devices up into tFLOW. So what that means is that with essentially no user configuration, just by choosing the URL of your Caldera RIP and clicking on this button, that's all you need to do to set it up. And all of your printers and quick sets that those printers are using will become available here as output queues. So then if you were to choose one of those queues and send it to TBot, TBot will at that point generate the JDF that Nexio needs to automate the process. So that information, of course, can include which quickset needs to use, how many copies you want, and so forth, so that even the print side is fully automated. So that's what the Nexio integration looks like, and the Zund integration works in exactly the same way. So when you export to Zund, if you set the XML file, this will then read out all of the materials lists that you have set up in your Zund Prep Center, and then publish those material lists here. So you'll see a series of Zund queues with all the different materials. You can choose which material you want to print on, or I'm sorry, cut on, and this will then send the file to the Prep Center, generate the XML that it needs, telling it which material it's supposed to be cut on and how many copies you want, so it knows how to do the layout automatically. So again, almost zero configuration from the user point of view, but very powerful functionality added by reading into the additional configuration of these systems and then publishing that information in tFLOW so that it can be used when setting up the jobs and pushing them down into production. So that's the largest, or let's say the main points or upgrades that we have for version 5. A lot of new things coming soon, but been working very hard on this version, so we hope that you'll be able to leverage the power that this affords you with your automation. So especially for those of you that have done integration with your web to print or MIS system, you'll find very quickly that the level of automation with this version is very high. And we hope that our effort pays off for you. So if you have any questions, please let us know. You can contact us at info@tucanna.com or sales@tucanna.com, or please visit our website for more information. That's tucanna.com, and hope to hear from you soon. Thank you very much.